All right, welcome everyone. Another episode of USF Football History. I'm your host, Chad Birger. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the transition years when USF moved from NAIA to NCAA Division II. And so a couple former players here. Got Matt Witwicki with me as well. So we'll do some quick introductions. Whit, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself first, and then we'll go around to the former players.
Sure. Old NAIA football guy, and then started writing for D2Football.com as the conference columnist in, 2013. I've been doing it ever since, and obviously know who these guys are and a little bit about their history as well, which is probably why I'm on the call.
Yeah. So I tried to pick some guys that were phenomenal student athletes. I came up with 3, and then I got Eric Anderson as well. So Eric, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, Eric Anderson, played from 08 to 12 from Irene, South Dakota. Now I do crop insurance, live back in Wakanda. That's about it.
Awesome. Casey.
Yeah, Casey Peters, played offensive line 2007 to 2011, and then I actually was a GA for the following 2 years. So I play with these guys, coach these guys, know a lot of their deep, dark secrets for them. But I grew up in Northwest Iowa too, so I want to be a part of this.
Frericks.
Michael Frericks, played safety from 09 through 12. I'm from Crystal Lake, Illinois, and I teach at Washington High School here in Sioux Falls and coach football.
Porter.
Kristian Porter, played running back from 2008 to 12. Also from Northwest Iowa, represent.
One of my favorite statistics students of all time, Kristian Porter.
Right. Hove's favorite student also.
Oh man, those were fun times. Well, okay, so you guys, mentioned your playing years. You guys were all a part of that group that helped move from NAIA to NCAA Division II, and so we kind of wanted to focus on some of those years. And specifically, I think beforehand we had said, let's start off with that 2010 season. Obviously, there was a huge move between 2009 and 2010 in that the coaching staff changed. Coach DeBoer left, and Jed Stugart was brought in. So what were some of the differences that happened on the team, along those lines with that coaching staff change?
I can start.
I guess. All right, you go ahead.
I think one thing that Coach Stugart did a really good job is he always said, I'm not going to come in here and try to fix something that's not broken. So I think he did a good job of really following our lead as players and captains and leaders and taking into effect like what Coach A and Coach Grubb already knew about the team. So, he put his own spin on things. Meetings changed a little bit, schedule changed a little bit, but as far as overall team philosophy and winners win, that's always been around. He did a good job of kind of letting us take the lead there.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, like the players, that we still had some really good senior captains that year. Dom Szynski, Schmeichel, Joe Moen, Brandon Koolstra. I mean, there were some guys that have been there for a long time that just kind of knew the tradition of USF football. I think they did a good job of keeping USF the same, and Coach Stugart let them, kind of like what Peter said, just kind of let the players kind of lead by how we're used to things, and he kind of, like he said, put a little spin on it, but yet let the USF tradition go on its way. So that was huge. Felt like nothing really changed from a player standpoint.
I guess I'll add one more thing to that. He did bring probably a more big school feel to us. I think he was the one that got the players' lounge for us, and when you look back at it, it wasn't that big of a deal from what they all have nowadays. But, we thought that was huge, just a separate room for us to hang out and watch TV and study. And then recruiting, seeing that from being a player and being a coach with him was way different. We're used to getting CC's buffet, and what he brought in was, taking us to Carnival Grill, getting, brand new rides from GMC in town, and so just a larger school kind of twist to things that he brought with us.
Yeah, I think too. I go back to practice of the NAIA days versus the NCAA days, and they were a lot different. I think he toned us down a little bit in practice because the NAIA days is kind of like the Wild West. You were just going out there, you'd knock people out, you would hit people, and there's a good story, Porter. You remember this story? You might not remember it very well, but yeah. So we were running. This was one of the first practices with Stuger, and he's like, "I want your intensity. I want all this. I want it to stay the same. I don't want to tone. Like I want to keep you guys going." Well, then, like one of the first practices, they throw a little bubble screen to Porter, and Schmeichel rolling down on Packer, absolutely depletes Porter. Just depletes complete. I mean, Porter had no chance. Blindsided, and then Stuger's like, "Okay, maybe we need to tone it down here a little bit so we can last to the NCAA season."
We did a lot of blood tempo after that.
They didn't have my back.
Yeah.
Peter was the only one.
Yeah, I remember that too. I mean, I lived in a house full of all defensive guys, so I remember I ran over to you, and of course it was on the defensive sideline, and I was trying to get Schmeichel back, and then of course Joe Moen's jumping in my face, Blake Anderson, Coolstraw, EA of course is chirping. So I remember that day after practice, I didn't even go back home to my house. I went over to an office.
I thought Grubb was going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Grubb was not happy.
No.
So
Well,
obviously,
really,
like,
the quarterback, it was Eastman's fault. It's not Schmeichel.
Yeah.
It's not Stuger. It's Eastman's fault. A terrible pass.
so that's you guys obviously replaced a couple of the guys from the year before. John Eastman came in and just had a spectacular season that year. It's almost like, watching games during the season, you guys didn't miss a beat. I mean, there was offensive firepower, defense was really, really good. And basically, I mean, you kind of scrolled through the whole schedule. There were a couple points along the way. One of them I'll bring up. The Northwestern game was a little bit tight. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yep.
If you want to say anything, Porter, we'll start with you. You're kind of a Northwest Iowa guy. What do you remember about that Northwestern?
I don't remember that game too much. I don't remember it. Coming back to the Schmeichel hit, I think I might be doing something. No, I'm just kidding.
It wasn't
too memorable to me.
Whit, what was the story with that Northwestern game?
Yeah, I remember. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was the first game of the year. I think that was the curtain jerker of the season. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys were down 21-10 maybe, something like that, like the third. And
I think it was the fourth.
okay, and all of a sudden, you guys, I think Chevy tipped the
Chevy
punt.
Walker had a block punt.
There you go. And then you guys ended up getting a few scores with John Ryan, and he got going with Eastman. But what do you guys recall with that?
I think that the final score, I honestly didn't look, but it was like 41-28, I think, something like that.
41-24. That's better than I would have expected out of you, Eric. But
Is that the game when Tony Benedetto was returning a punt and got depleted?
Who's that?
Tony.
Remember when Tony Benedetto was returning that punt and just absolutely demoted?
Yeah, that was a night game. What do you guys recall about that and kind of find yourself down 2 scores at Northwest, something you're probably not expecting in game 1?
I remember the big was halftime. What? I remember sitting in halftime and like looking around and it was like weird. It was like people were like, why are we in this situation? It just felt like it was just dominance for the 10 years. I mean, before I was even there, but I just remember looking around like, why are we in this situation? It was weird. It was a weird feeling.
Sure.
I think even though we just talked about how the leadership that we had coming back, there were still so many new faces and coaches included. I mean, different calling a game. As coach, wasn't that Coach Grubb's first game called? Coach A's first game. Right. I mean, there's a lot of new faces, a lot of new things going on. So I think just the nerves for players and coaches settling in, and then finally we started to calm down. And obviously, when you get a block punt like that, I mean, the momentum just completely shifted, and then we got rolling ever since after that. But I think just there's so many new faces, so many for the coaching staff especially too. I mean, not putting everything on coaches, but I mean, you got new coordinators on both sides of the ball calling a brand new game. I mean, that's a lot to ask.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, from the offensive line side of things, I mean, we were we were blessed the years before that with some studs that played for years. I mean, Stout, TJ, Flanagan, Beaver, all those guys. And coming in, we had a lot of new faces. It was just me and Wasson were the only two returners. And then we had DeBay and, a couple of new transfer faces that came in. So we still had some gelling to do up front. And luckily, our more experienced position group, our receivers, Al, JR, and Eastman, they were able to make some plays for us on the offensive side and kind of bail us out. And the defense did what they do. Special teams made some plays. So that's what turned it around.
If I remember right, Frericks, there were defensive side of the ball was Koolstra, Dom, and Schmeichel, the only three returning starters, I think, too. I mean, there's a lot of new faces there. Because, Joel Mullen was there, but he never started. Lopez never started.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it was.
You didn't either. And Bonte, he got some playing time, but he didn't start either. And Brandon Anderson never started. And so we had a lot of new faces on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, we did.
Sure.
Well, like you guys mentioned, you did kind of roll a little bit after that 41-24 opening game win. The next week, you went to Fremont and beat Midland Lutheran by 30, put up 66 against Doane in the home opener, 34-10 over Hastings, 44-0 over Nebraska Wesleyan. Really, there was no close games until we get to the middle of October, play against Morningside. Obviously, Morningside, probably the other tough opponent in the GPAC back in those days. What was that game like? Do you guys remember a whole lot about that?
It was a night game, right?
Yeah.
Sioux Falls.
Night game.
Sioux Falls, yeah.
I think that was another huge JR game, if I remember right. Feels like whether we were, inside the 5 or backed up at the 1, I feel like we were calling a lot of fades to JR that game, and that's kind of what, the whole season was about too. But we bailed us out a lot.
JR, of course, is John Ryan, who finished that game with 7 catches for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah.
He was all right.
Were you guys expecting a little bit from Morning? You guys ended up winning 28-3 in that one. Were you guys expecting a little bit more from Morningside that year? Because it had in the past been a little bit more competitive ball games.
They had lost. I remember they were really good the year before.
Yeah.
They had a lot of talent. They had lost some talent. And I don't remember that game as much, but I just remember they had lost talent from the year before, and it wasn't the same. Offensively, they had some weapons the year before.
Yeah.
That Kildo kid, whatever, a little slot. It was
Bo Kildo, yep.
He was good.
That year I looked up to Dom quite a bit, obviously for a lot of reasons, but I would turn to him on a lot of things. And when he wasn't worried about Morningside, then he just kind of knew they weren't the same Morningside that year at all. He kind of just shrugged them off, and we still watched film together, but he was just kind of like, these guys aren't very good. So we were a lot more worried about other teams than them.
Well, so the last 4 games of the season, you guys gave up a combined 13 points total. So the defense was obviously clicking going into the playoffs. And then in the playoffs, you faced Northwestern Oklahoma State, the first round. It was November 20th, and I remember that game being extremely cold.
Very cold.
Just to share the Swan story. You guys remember it?
No.
Coach Swan. So, extremely cold game, and you guys know we have those heaters that are on the sideline, keep us warm. The coaches get ticked when we're standing over by the heater, but it was pregame, I remember, and Coach Swans was out there, and he had on a nice new USF winter coat, and I think he got a little too close to the heater and was leaning up against it.
Oh, yeah. I do.
He's lighting up and burning up his new coat. So
I remember that.
That was a good way to ease any pregame jitters that we had with Coach Swans there getting lit up.
I remember that game being some of even the coaches, you kind of just heard the chatter behind the scenes that kind of pissed that that's who we drew first round, because that was a really, really good team. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey, this isn't a first round draw. This team can go deep in the playoffs. We should be seeing these guys in the semis or something. And they were really, I thought they were really good.
They're a very athletic team, right?
Very athletic. I thought they were better than Mid-American.
Yeah, they had Corey Williams, who obviously, Porter, you know who Corey is, former Sioux Falls Storm kick returner and receiver, and he was kind of their main guy, a wideout who they would give it to Jim on jets, and every once in a while he'd come in at quarterback, and he didn't do anything that game from what I recall. But and they also had a good little running back, a stocky guy. But I remember, you guys, I remember I may or may not have gone out with their radio crew the night before, and we closed down Bucks because they wanted to have a good time in Sioux Falls. And I remember seeing them the next morning, Oklahoma guys, on the sideline, getting ready to do a little sideline bit, kind of like Birger does. And oh my goodness, they could not believe the wind. It wasn't snowing or anything, but the wind was just whipping. And they were like, they wanted no part of it. Now I don't know if the Rangers on the other sideline wanted much of it either after they got down early, because they didn't show much life in the second half. So
there's kind of
our stat crew here. I'll give the statistics. It says the game time, the kickoff temperature was 24 degrees. The wind was blowing east at 17 miles an hour, which gave us a wind chill of 11 degrees that game.
And that was the first round, right?
I would have figured it was colder than that, even, but that was cold.
Yeah, I mean, when you came to USF in the later rounds of the playoffs, or even it didn't even matter when, but like when guys were running around with shirts off, and the other teams are like literally shivering at warmups, we just knew they had no chance.
Right.
I was just about to say that, but because we kind of had that tradition as pregame, we would go out there shirts off and just run around, mess around. But we did that before that game, and I was probably out there 10, 15 minutes. I said, screw this. I'm going back in and putting the shirt on because this is cold.
Nobody put the Vaseline on before you got the shirt on, right?
Yep.
But I mean, I was flexing when I was going off, just to show that I'm not that cold. But I went back inside.
Now, what was the whole story with the Vaseline thing? Just to seal in the heat or something like that?
Yeah, we all put Vaseline all over ourselves, and
I'm sure the science behind it probably doesn't actually work out. It's probably been debunked, but it was something that we learned from the guys before us.
Just pass it on.
You load up your arms, your chests, whatever you got to do. So help out a buddy, start slathering it on them.
Sure.
I remember I was sitting up in the crowd, and I was like, man, none of the USF guys are even wearing sleeves. They're all bare arms out there. Yep. And so I went up to Brandon Anderson after the game, and I was like, what do you guys do? And he's like, oh yeah, we just put Vaseline all over everything, and that helps keep. Yeah. I'm like, that does not help keep you warm.
We thought it did, so it must have done.
Yeah. Porter, what were you gonna chip in there?
I didn't do the Vaseline. Running back never did that. We didn't
must be a linebacker then.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fun one. Final score we had here was USF 33, Northwest 14. So obviously beat them, go to the second round of the playoffs, play McKendree University.
They ran with like high formation, double wing. I mean, they never passed. That was like a linebacker's dream. But yeah, they just never did anything but run the same stuff over and over and over and over again.
Yeah,
that was like 42 to nothing, wasn't it, or something like that? I don't know if they scored, but maybe.
No, you let them score. Yeah, it
was a field goal then.
Yeah. Yeah, we overhauled our defense completely for that team. I mean, remember we went to like a cover 3. I was like the top 50 in the middle of the field that just all I had to do was make sure nobody beat me deep, but they never threw, so it didn't matter.
What was that final score, Mr. Birger?
It was 27-7.
Oh, that must have been on the scrubs or something. I don't know. I don't remember him scoring. Or they probably had a pick 6. Porter probably fumbled. They picked it up and ran it back. Peters was there to make the tackle, missed it, then they scored.
I remember that they had a running back who had been at Grand Valley State University, a D2 playoff team at the time, and he was their leading rusher the year before that and got kicked off the team or something, and he ended up landing with them, and he was a bit of a threat, probably their main threat. I would imagine you guys probably focused in on him much of the week, given the fact that they're a running team as well. and he was held to 38 yards on 13 carries. And I just remember thinking if they shut him down, this thing's over with, because they didn't seem to have a whole lot else. But
yeah, unfortunately for them, actually, I remember he was injured. He wasn't 100%. He was like, he came out like something with an MCL. He was in a brace.
right,
He could not move. He couldn't do a thing.
yeah.
They had no run game whatsoever.
Yeah, I remember that was not one of the better attended football games at USF. I think that was a friends and family game. That was one of those games that's early in the playoffs where everyone just gets real content and they just figure you guys are going to roll, and not a lot of people show up for that one.
And that second round playoff game is usually Thanksgiving weekend.
Right.
And so I think that really hurts the student attendance. And
yeah, I feel like that was usually when we would play Morningside too, but I think that year they went down to mid-am maybe.
They went down to Mid-American, and then Mid-Am kind of took it to them, and I think Mid-Am kind of that fueled some of their thoughts for what was going to be coming the next week, which is why they made that great video that EA still enjoys, I think.
Yeah, that's what you call a segment, right?
yeah, so tell us a little bit about this
video ever
Mid-American.
made.
Yeah, so
Video ever made.
there's a little bit of a backstory with that video. I remember midweek, I want to say, no, it was maybe like Monday, Tuesday. I remember on our forum on Victory Sports Network, there was the MNU people were real prickly, and they were really up for this game, and they really thought that they were going to get rid of USF and that this was their season. And one of their sports information guys decided to make a video with the Johnny Cash song, was it "Cut You Down," and it was very direct at USF. Actually, Porter, you're at the very beginning of the video that they're speaking to, and so it was. I remember I immediately was like, "What is this?" And I sent it to Stuger, and Jed and I had gotten to know each other a fair amount, and boy, he loved it. And the fact that he was the previous head coach there,
Yeah, that's right.
put him in an odd spot to some extent. But I kind of got the word that he went and ran with it a little bit with you guys, and you guys may have viewed that video a little bit before you guys ended up playing the game on Saturday. What can you guys tell me on the backside with regard to that whole thing? The pump up video.
Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I just think, I mean, that's probably the dumbest thing they ever could have done, honestly. I'm not trying to be a cock right there at all. I just, anytime the newspapers, I respect Zimmer as a writer, but every time he put, back in 2009 about UND, they're going to have a struggle up there, and stuff like that gets written about us in a negative way, or like, hey, we're not getting much credit or respect. This kind of fuels the fire, and it really ticks us off. I mean, that was probably the dumbest thing they could have done, because that was, I believe, an ass whoop in that game. I mean, we beat the snot out of them, and I'll never forget, they played it right after. I think Nate Everett wasn't playing then. He was there in attendance as an alum watching the game, and he ran up to the scorer's table and blasted on the intercom and said, "You guys need to play this right now," after we got done shaking hands. I mean, it was
right as we were going through the handshake line.
I remember that very well.
Yeah, as soon as that
probably my favorite moment in a USF uniform. That's definitely one of them.
Yeah,
that was
I
awesome.
laughed out loud the moment they hit the music with that, because I was like, there's like 10% of the people here who understand what this is about right now.
Yeah.
And I just started cracking up when I heard that. But
we huddled and just went crazy in our huddle. I mean, that was
kind of getting back to their game itself. Let me ask you: you guys kind of run out, they run out, then they start doing the haka dance.
That's right.
Yeah.
On their half of the field, and Koolstra had this look on his face like a serial killer. Like he was going to run over there and take care of business, and whether you guys were with him or not. And I mean, I thought to myself that might be like a whole nother thing of, okay, it's on. I mean, what were your thoughts as a player, guys? I mean, when you have the backstory of the video and then that whole haka dance, and this is the semifinals, you guys had to be pretty amped at that point.
Oh, yeah.
I would say just the video before Friday night, that coming into the Bob, everybody knows our record and our history there. So just the disrespect that they showed us. I mean, we had everything we needed to, come out right from the start. I know they had one stud linebacker that Coach Stewart was making us very well aware of, and he got a shot on Easton later in the game. I can share a story on that, but I don't know if you guys have anything else on how the
that kid played at Colorado.
Yeah, Jake Duran, number 11, Jake Duran. Yeah, I remember when. Yeah, wasn't power. I was gonna say he could hit, and wasn't Eastman like sliding or something, and he tried to take his head off or something.
Coach Stewart like all week told him, "Hey, you get down. Like I'm not messing about this kid. He's the real deal." And Eastman's he's a low too. I mean, he's not giving us credit for like how big and strong and good of a runner what he is. So he just might have made a little screw up there, and he took a pretty big hit on the head, and I think he popped right back up, but he was walking to the visitor sideline, and we knew something was wrong, so we sent him off to the side, and he had to get looked at. And I remember the funny part was I think T.O. was the backup, and T.O. had to come in for one play, and I mean, we all love T.O., but I remember him in the huddle there, like his eyes were just coming in. I think it was a fairly tight game at that point. I think it might have even been third down, and him calling the play in the huddle, and I think you could just tell he was a little nervous. I think he ended up getting a first down for us, but I remember our personnel was all mixed up for that. We didn't know who we were supposed to have in, and I lined up at right tackle, and then I have some tight end lined up next to me, and he's calling out all these dummy calls and line calls, and I'm like, who in the heck is this? And it's Tony Bennett, a wide receiver, who's just got in there somehow, and he's lined up at tight end, his goofy old so I'll never forget lining up for one play with Tony Bundell as my tight end.
You guys end up winning that game 38-0, but if I remember right, it was kind of slow going at first, like a little bit of a feeling out process.
Well, the first drive they actually it was an 80-yard drive, 3 minutes and 54 seconds, surgical, methodical drive, 13-yard touchdown to Austin Van Hove. And then after that, it was kind of back and forth a little bit until the end of the first half. And then, John Ryan.
There was no back and forth, Burger. It was 38-0. There was
no. I'm saying, punting, field position type of game.
I know.
And then John Ryan got a touchdown late in the half, and then Braden Weeking kicked a field goal, so it ended up being 17-0 at halftime.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I don't know what his name is, but number one, I remember him. I mean, he was a phenomenal athlete. We were really worried about them, but
yeah, he was like a Lorenzo at quarterback, wasn't he? Real.
Oh, yeah,
real
maybe.
athletic.
I just remember he was. I think he lined up everywhere. To tell you the truth, I mean, that guy was everywhere. It seemed like it, but he was a phenomenal athlete. But I think that video, and I just fueled the fire, and it got us going, and we were locked in all week.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this story, but I remember it vividly. It was near the end of the game. We were still kind of in the first defense, and they ran like a draw. They ran a run play or whatever, and I just remember the seam just opened up, and Dom hit their running back so hard, and it was so cold at this point, and they were just done. The kid literally got up whimpering, like he got hit so hard, and it was so cold. I remember him just whimpering. I'm like, I think that kid's crying.
Yeah, I think in the official stats, the wind chill of this one was 7 degrees as well. So
that one I remember, like I think before the game, that quarterback and they had like a really good tight end that they were like fighting.
Yeah, tight end was good. Yeah, he was a big boy too, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, so you guys obviously won 38-0. Big win, going to another national championship. Undefeated, you get to go play Carroll. And this is kind of the big one because, we didn't get to play them in 2009, did in 2008. What was kind of the feeling going to play Carroll again in 2010?
Well, we can let the senior speak for that because he had one more season after this. We can let him go first there, but.
Yeah, I had one more season like this, but I don't know. We knew the history we had with Carroll, and we knew that this would probably be our last time against them. They knew the same, and I know their coach Van Diest, he was, kind of making some comments before, like, good luck, to these guys going D2, like, kind of taking shots at us that way. So we had a lot to prove that game, and we wanted to kind of hit that tiebreaker that we had with them over the last couple of years. But, yeah, we all know how that one ended.
Yeah, that one, they always say don't let a loss beat you twice. That loss has beaten me about 50 times. I mean, that still really hurts. Going in that game, I'm kind of a realistic. Not that I didn't train to win a national championship in 2012, because I definitely did. But in my mind, the back of my mind, I knew this was our last chance at a national title. You went to USF to win national championships, and to know that you're going to be. I know it's Peters is sitting here. That was his last one, regardless, no matter what. But you go to USF to win national championships, and knowing that kind of got, because we didn't know it when we signed, in 2008. We didn't know we were going to Division II yet. That kind of happened behind the scenes and let us know after I don't know, it was the 2008 season. Maybe they said something about we could possibly be going up. But that one was tough, just because I knew that was it, because the next year we couldn't play for anything. And then 2012, I mean, what are the odds of winning a Division II national title in your first year being Division II? So we just kind of knew that was it. So after that game, we lost. That was tough, and that beat me a lot the next year. I mean, that was hard. That was probably one of the hardest losses that I'll ever have. I mean, that was still to this day is pretty brutal.
Let me ask you, you guys are holding them you guys are kept kind of bull in your neck. They would get down in the red zone. You guys would find a way to either only give up a field goal or they wouldn't score. And then all of a sudden their quarterback gets loose on an 80-yard scamper. I would imagine that's probably a play that, Michael, yourself, and Eric, that you guys probably won't forget anytime soon.
No, I just remember the series of events that happened to that. Jordan Carlson actually had him wrapped up behind the line of scrimmage, and he skimpered loose. And then I'll back up a little bit. The thing about that play that really ticks us off and gets back to it is it was like 3rd and medium. I believe it was 3rd and 7 to be exact. And we watched film, scouted them, and that was their huge play on 3rd and 5 to 3rd and 8. In between there, they would always run a QB draw. I mean, that was their play. And we knew it was coming. We were yelling it out, QB draw, QB draw. And, Carlson was right there, had him, and I'm coming up, missed tackle. And as I'm diving to go get the tackle, because he kind of made a nice little juke move, and he's going to the outside. As I'm going, Schmeichel's behind me and just kills me right in the back, because he was doing the exact same thing. So, I mean, we just completely went, wow. And then all of a sudden I get up and I look, and all of a sudden I just see him gone. I mean, that was a hard play. I mean, that was tough, because we actually – I know they got down the red zone many times, a few different times, but we actually did pretty dang well throughout the whole game defensively and really kept them in check, because they had some – Bubba Bartlett, number 1, or number 44, but I'm saying number 1 was probably their best player. And I think he went on to play in the practice squad the next year for the Texans, I believe, for maybe just a year or two. But, I mean, he was a phenomenal player, and we kind of held him in check for the most part, I think. I don't know what his stats were, but I don't remember him making any huge-time plays. And I think Camino was our running back. We kind of kept him in check too. So I thought we did a really good job, except for one major breakdown on a play. So that's tough to look back on for sure.
Yeah,
we can just have that one play back. I mean, I think we're national champs that year. I mean, because I don't see them scoring after. I mean, that's the only time they really obviously sniffed. That's the only score that they had, is that we lost 10-7. But
I was going to say EA Camino finished with 79 yards rushing, but only 3.3 yards per carry. So you guys kind of held him in check. And then that Bubba Bartlett that you mentioned finished with 5 catches for 45 yards. So, nothing spectacular there.
No.
So the final was 10-7, but there was obviously a chance for a field goal there at the end. I know Tim Hyatt's watching right now. He commented earlier. Hopefully we can get another comment from him. But, listening on the radio, the announcers thought it was good. I've talked to some of the players that were on the field. They thought that it went through. What was you guys' vantage point for that field goal? Casey Peters, we'll
I
start with
didn't
you.
look. I'll be honest. I didn't even watch.
Yeah, I think I was actually on the PAT team, and I didn't even look. I was just like kept my head down and just praying that you were saying it was good. So still haven't watched that game since we played it. I haven't watched it on film, so I honestly couldn't tell you how close it was or not.
Porter, do you remember that at all?
I didn't look.
Chad,
was
wasn't it like a 50-yard attempt also?
It was
Yeah.
a bomb.
44.
You know, I mean, credit to Weeking and the fact that was even a possibility because he had enough leg and was a good enough kicker. I mean, because that kick wasn't short. I mean, it ended up being called a little wide, but he had plenty of leg on it. And I mean, it's not like he didn't strike it well either. And I mean, obviously that's something that he lives with, I'm sure. But at the same time, he had such a storied career and was a part of so much of the success that USF had that, I mean, he can look back on a lot of things really positively. But I mean, I remember that very well as well, Chad. And watching that, the first time I saw it, I thought it was good. And then on the replay, I did think it was wide. But at the same time, boy, that was a heck of a moment.
Yeah, our friend Tim Hyatt.
Now we can joke about it a little bit. I know it was a national championship, but I'm more pissed off at Weeking missing the extra point against Winona than I am the national championship, 44-some yards. But extra point should never happen, Weeking, if he's watching.
It was 46 yards in the official stats.
Yeah. Well, his 2000.
Yeah,
for it.
you're still mad about not getting Chick-fil-A when we got there. To be honest.
That was in 2009 when I was a bench warmer.
No,
2010 I was focused.
No, 2010 we didn't get Chick-fil-A breakfast because we were stuck on
We
the
were late.
stuck
Trying
on
to say,
for
take
6
that,
hours.
Porter.
that was a trip from hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
Okay, so 2010, obviously over. We're done with our NAIA. Going into the 2011 season, how difficult was it to prepare for a season in which, you know, we're gonna use the term transition. It was a transition year, right? I mean, there's no conference, there's no championship to play for. You know, you're filling out games. You had to play Minot twice that year just to get enough games on the schedule. How hard was it to prepare for that 2011 season?
Awful.
It was different, knowing that there was no playoffs, there was no, light at the end of the tunnel that we always got focused for, because usually it was regular season, whatever, we're just gonna, smoke everybody, and that's where the fun really begins. But credit to the coaches, they sold it to us as, yeah, you got some random teams on here, but you also got some big dogs on here. You got Northwest Missouri. We knew how, their history was. And we had UND at the end of the season too. We had an awesome game against them a couple years prior. So we knew that those were kind of our playoff games, and so we had to be prepared for that. Unfortunately, they were more at the beginning of the season when, again, we had a lot of new faces, and we still had a lot of gelling to do when we faced those guys. And probably the toughest one was the Washburn one there. We started off, and the biggest thing for that wasn't even just beating them. It was, we got to protect the Bob. And that's probably my biggest regret of my USF career, is letting down all the players and seniors before me that protected it. And, I think it was actually us four. We were the captains for that game, for that team, and we're the ones that gave us the first loss at the Bob. So that one still stings.
Yeah, so that Washburn game, that was the first game of the season. And
they're a good team.
Yeah, they were a good team.
Very good.
But I think they kind of snuck up on you guys a little bit because, the USF crowd kind of blinked, and all of a sudden it's 27-0. Washburn's ahead, and the first drive of the second quarter. And I remember looking around to the crowd, and I was like, hey, what's going on here? Is this what this is going to be like for the next however long? But then you guys kind of started making a comeback and playing with them a little bit. So that's obviously credit to you guys and the team, but what do you guys remember about that?
I remember their quarterback was an absolute stud. I don't even know his name, but I remember we watched film after it, and I don't remember who was guarding him, but the guy just had a complete bullet to the side of the end zone, and the guy made a great catch, but you could not put that ball anywhere else, and it was for a touchdown. I mean, it was incredible. The guy had some amazing throws. I don't even know his name, but he was a stud.
I think he was 100% in the first half, if I remember.
He probably. I mean, and honestly, I don't think that's a huge shot at our. I know I sound biased a little bit. I don't think that's a huge shot at our defense at all. But we had a lot of new faces that year too. But yeah, we struggled. Yes, don't get me wrong. We didn't play how we normally do. But that guy was. I mean, he did not miss a throw. It was amazing. I think that's the best quarterback that I remember playing against.
Yeah, I think that was Dane Semino, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to say he threw for like 6 touchdowns in that game and like 400 or 500 yards or something like that. But and I remember you guys started to really mount a nice comeback. What was it, late third quarter? And then I think they did like a play action, and he hit some guy down the field, and it was kind of like his way of saying, "I can still do this if I want to." I mean, the way he threw it, and he had a wide out Beard, I think his last name was, who was a really fast guy, and I remember you guys were having a hard time keeping him in front of you too, just because of his speed. But they were a sneaky good D2 team.
Very good team.
NCAA. I mean, they were a playoff team that year, if I remember right, and he was a Harlan Hill guy. I mean, a candidate. So, I mean, you guys started off with a lot there. Casey, how did things feel for you guys on the offensive side? I mean, you guys had a lot of guys in key spots that were the first time in the huddle in a game situation with the coup. I mean, you had Carrington at quarterback, Hannah. I mean, you had Hicks at receiver. You had, Oates at receiver. You had a lot of fresh faces that had never even taken snaps as a Cougar before.
Yeah, I think that was, the hardest part is when we've never been in that spot before, and when you haven't been in that spot and you're with a bunch of guys that first game playing together, I mean, no excuses is always our motto, but that was a tough way to start off the game and start off the season. I mean, thankfully, you had guys like Porter, and our backfield was really experienced, him and JT. But yeah, even on the offensive line, it was me and I believe DeBay and Joyma had been around for a while, but new faces there. We lost Van Hove, who would have been our stud tight end that year. We lost him in the preseason. So, and then when
easy with the stud word on Hove, he's probably listening.
There's a lot of names for Van Hove, but and then I mean, again, we're so used to it probably went both ways. Like we're used to just sitting on the sideline for 3 plays, and our defense gets off the field, and we're right back in. Same vice versa. I'm sure the defense is used to us putting together a long drive and keeping them off the field. And I mean, it was just an unknown territory for both sides of the ball there, and yeah, it was tough to climb out of that.
Yeah, we were down 21-0 before I felt like I could catch my breath. I remember, like they were up tempo. It was hot. It was so hot.
Yeah,
and it just it was ugly starting. But then we clawed back.
Yeah.
So I was going to mention, offensively the stats don't look that great that game. We only rushed 23 times as a team, which for a USF team is very, very low. Was Carrington coming into the season going to be the starter, or was he kind of in a battle there in preseason, or how did that end up turning out?
I mean, I know you know this too. It was like a competition between him and Perkins, right? That was kind of the two that I was coming to. Perkins got in a little bit later. I think he got in pretty much like 2 weeks before camp, and was just a little further behind, I would say, in the playbook. And he might not even – I think he had a hip issue or something lingering as well. So CH won out the competition there, and yeah, so that's what we rolled with him for a couple weeks.
I don't think Perkins went into play until we were down at McNeese.
McNeese, yeah, and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
And then he got blown up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you guys have that game with Washburn, and then after that you're thinking, okay, now we're going to make a trip down to Maryville and play Northwest, Missouri State, who's kind of the gold standard at the D2 level.
Yep.
You guys go in there, and after a quarter, it looks like you're playing them even. Then they put up 28 spot in the second quarter, and that was kind of off to the races from there for them. EA and Michael, what do you guys remember about that Bearcat team?
Dang secondary.
I was not. I mean, no excuses, but I was not 100%. I had pulled my groin that week.
No, they were good, very balanced. I remember them being very balanced. I think we were actually more worried about the run going into the game. And you say even, I don't remember it a lot really well, but I think we kind of held it in check right away to begin with, and they started opening things up and then really took off. But they're a phenomenal team. I mean, they're definitely better than us, that's for sure. I mean, that they proved that right away, and just a phenomenal team. A lot of respect to those guys, and then they weren't probably one of the most. I mean, we didn't get our butts kicked a lot, obviously, in our career, but the games that we did lose against, I thought they're the most respectful team. I mean, they weren't cocky; they just showed up, did their thing, and had a heck of a game, and then they shook your hand afterwards. I mean, it was kind of one of those deals. So I gained a lot of respect for those guys after that ass whooping. So.
Yeah, I felt like that was a lot. Dude, it felt like the introduction to Division II. Like, this is what the cream of the crop of Division II looks like. I mean, from the stadium, from the fans, from the cheerleaders, everything just felt like this is bigger. It felt bigger, and it was.
Cheerleaders especially.
Yeah.
So after 2 weeks, you guys have kind of gotten on the wrong side of the score, 1 week a little bit worse than the other. You guys aren't used to losing games like this. I mean, after a 2-week window, you're on a drive back, 5 hours from the Kansas City area. What are some of the thoughts that are going around, and how are you guys kind of keeping air in the balloon mentally after an 0-2 start like that?
Mine's just going out with pride. I mean, with the 3 years prior to that, and that we have a lot of history in our program, and you don't want to let down your teammates, the guys that came before you, and guys like Coach Young. So that's just kind of the way that we played it. We know we still had McNeese coming up. That was a big game, and again, winning is a tradition, winning season. So we knew that we could still end the season with a winning record, which was huge.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Then you go into the McNeese game and you're watching film of them playing LSU, and it's like, oh, all right, these are some dudes here.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So you guys are.
I think the biggest.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we didn't point, and we can talk. This is all tradition of USF and in general, but we didn't point fingers at one another. We didn't blame the offense. The offense didn't blame the defense. Why we're losing games, and start the season 0-2. We were such a tight group, ever since. I know they were there long before I was there, but I think just the tradition of USF in itself. I mean, a lot of colleges, you don't find offensive players and defensive players room together. I mean, it's usually offensive guys hanging out, the defensive guys hanging out, and we were completely different program, and we were all just so tight and good friends, and the brotherhood that we talk about. And I think that's what, I know we didn't come back and have a phenomenal season, but it kind of kept things together, getting ready for the next season, that when we could play for something again.
So you guys obviously go down to McNeese State, right? I'm assuming fly down there.
You bet, charter.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was still mad that they didn't offer me a spot on the seat on the charter. So Tom and Tim obviously got to fly down. You saw Tim just commented and said they wrecked their vehicle on the way back from Missouri the week before. So you guys fly down to McNeese State. You said you'd watch film of them playing LSU. What was it like going into a big time program like that? And I don't know, what was that experience like?
They're fast. Like on their defense, they had stud safety. I think the corner transferred from Tennessee. He was the freshman player of the year for the SEC. I think you just tell that they're different. They're different speed down there.
I remember being at Casey Peters' house, and I think Brandon. I don't remember who all lived there still, but Brandon Anderson was sitting there. We had a couple other guys over there watching film, and we were all kind of watching it together. We just kind of looked at each other and watching them play LSU, and they even played Kansas that year too. And we're like,
Fresno.
we're gonna get creamed. We're gonna get crushed. And we all started laughing. We've never thought that way before. I mean, we've never gone into a game thinking we're gonna lose. And here we are going to that game. We're thinking we're going to lose, but I think we only lost by 2 touchdowns, I believe. But played them pretty well and still stuck to it. But I'll say real quick before I don't really remember a whole lot about the game, but I think us 4 were captains of that, so and maybe kicker was too. But we're coming down that tunnel or that hill going into the field because it's kind of like a bowl, and we're walking by, and there's the cheerleaders standing by the goalpost, and we're all kind of looking at each other like, these pretty good-looking girls. Well, all of a sudden they started spitting out their chew spit at us. And we're like, holy crap, what the heck are we doing here? But that's probably the biggest thing I remember about that game is the cheerleaders got a bunch of chew spitting at us as we're walking by. So,
Yeah.
I think we had a touchdown. Do we have a touchdown or an onside called back?
Touchdown called back.
Coach got called for offensive PI at the end. But yeah, I think our mindset in that game was just we had nothing to lose. I mean, that was the first time we probably felt that we were on the road and we'd already lost some. So let's just go down there, have some fun, and see what happens. And we made it pretty interesting.
Porter, I might have the wrong game, but Porter, is that the one where you were kind of breaking an open field and kind of got a foot injury or somebody got you in the nabbed you when you were starting to get open field?
Yeah, I broke my foot. Yeah, in the first half.
Yep.
And it wasn't. You were on the midst of kind of an open run, weren't you? Like almost ready to break loose.
I was showing them some white boy speed. You know, I was going. And then I broke my foot.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's the game when we had our pregame meal and they had all these nice cups, you know, stacked like 5 layers high. So Dad tried grabbing one and knocked them all down. Like 100 glass cups, knocked them all down and broke.
Well, I was going to say that game, we actually got down 14-0 at a halftime, and then came out second half and started off with a field goal, and then Angelo Pre had an interception return for a touchdown. So all of a sudden, it's midway through the third quarter, and we're only down 4 points. And so at that point, for those of us, casual fans that are listening in onto the radio broadcast, we're like, holy cow, we're hanging right there with them. And then they kind of had a couple, 45-yard drives, punched it in, and took that extended the lead to 28-10. And then, as you mentioned earlier, Taylor Perkins came in at quarterback that game, and he threw a touchdown pass to Jeremiah Oates. But yeah, the final was 31-17 for that game. So 0-3 start. Not great, but you guys have anything else to add from that game?
No, we can keep rolling. We got get to.
Let's just skip the season.
Okay. So 0-3 start. USF obviously has a tremendous history of winning seasons. The last losing season was 1990. Oh gosh, what year was it? 92, 90. I don't remember, but a long, long time ago. And so you guys are kind of, at risk of, going and having a losing season. The next game, got to go up to Minot. So you played one home game so far. You're putting on a lot of miles. So you went to Maryville, to Lake Charles, and then you got to go up to Minot and play up there when it's still kind of hot. And that's a 38-23 win. Then finally we get to come home for a 4-game stretch. So I'm sure you guys were happy that you got to play a few home games in the middle part of the season. Beat William Jewell 35-10. If you guys have anything you want to chime in about these games, just holler at me. Beat Black Hill State 44-20. And then South Dakota School of Mines and Technology got, they let us do whatever we wanted there. 1993 was the last losing season we got here from our stats guy chiming in. So you guys kind of righted the boat here, righted the ship, and then Minot came to Sioux Falls again. We played Minot twice that season. They were also in the transition stage and beat them 29-10. So that guaranteed a winning season. So, I mean, credit to you guys as players. You were able to, take an 0-3 start and then, roll off those 5 straight victories, some of them by a pretty impressive margin. So good job, fellas. I don't know if you guys have any memories from any of those games, or that was something that you guys talked about.
Back to enjoying playing football with your buddies and lighting up the scoreboard. And I mean, no play really sticks out to me particularly, but it was just good times again and enjoying football.
Yeah. So
I didn't contribute.
Oh, go ahead, Porter.
I didn't contribute to any of those games.
Yeah,
in spirit.
Well, all those
come back from the 2012 season.
Yeah.
I jokingly have said that Porter's the only person who have played for Coach Young, Coach DeBoer, and Coach Stugart. He's been around the program so long. But, no, and
what was there?
True.
Yeah.
So you guys finish up the season. You got to finish the season by going up to Grand Forks. 2009 went up there, knocked them off. You'd think, hey, they might prepare a little bit more or take you guys a little bit more serious, but you guys went up there and were right with them the whole game.
Yep.
What do you remember about
game
that?
until the clock hit 0?
Yep.
Yeah.
The thing I remember is just a lot of missed opportunities. I mean, whether it was offense couldn't punch it in, and then special teams, I feel like that was the game of blocked field goals. What do we have? Whether it was field goals or PATs, I think we had 2 or 3 of them blocked that game.
Yep.
And then I remember a game of inches as well. I think it was they got a safety on us when they backed us up and we barely got pushed in. And then we still even had a chance at the end of the game. Perkins, we were going to do a naked bootleg with him on like 4th and 1. And the guy just barely tipped his shoelaces, and that kind of like sealed our fate. So really close to holding those guys off again, but couldn't really shock them that time.
Yeah. But, I mean, a respectable end of the season. Now you guys go into 2012. The transition year is over. Now all of a sudden we got a conference, right? We're going to play for something the following year, 2012 season. So, of course, what does the Northern Sun do? They give us the returning I don't know if he was the conference player of the year, but their St. Cloud State quarterback was one of the best players in the conference the previous year. And, of course, we have to go up to St. Cloud the first game of the 2012 season and play them up there. So, I mean, what was it like, going into the 2012 season and then getting ready to play St. Cloud right away?
Well, I'll say
I think we're pumped. We wanted to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
It was all about proving that we belong there.
Yeah. And the off season was absolutely hell. We ramped it up. That's for sure. It was no longer NAIA off season. It was NCAA off season. Here we go. And I mean, we had puke buckets. You guys remember how it was. It was a nightmare, but I mean, it got us ready to go. I mean, I knew we were now D2 ready once we got into that season, and just how exciting it was to go play them and go toe to toe and take them down.
Well, they were returning. Didn't they win the North the year before?
Yep.
St. Cloud State. I remember, I think it was the week of the game. I believe we played them on a Thursday night to open the season. And I remember during the week, Coach Stugart and I went to the Argus Leader Complex or whatever and did a radio interview or talk show live, Facebook Live deal with Stu, Whitney, and Zimmer. And I just remember specifically we're going back to what Zimmer writes in newspapers and stuff to get us going a little bit. But I remember specifically asking questions about that game, and Zimmer said, these guys are up to a tough battle, returning, and I see North champs, got the, like you said, Birger, best quarterback coming back in the league and whatnot. And he goes, I think they're going to go up there and they're going to lose, and I don't think it's even going to be close. Well, he got one of those things right. It wasn't close. I think we went up there and beat the snot out of them. But I don't mean to sound like that, but that was like Frericks said, like, here we go. We're in Division II, and we want to do the big prove it game with, like Porter said. And I think that was a huge statement to the D2 world that here's USF and here we're coming. And I think that was that was a big game and a big win. So that was a lot of fun. I don't remember the final score. I want to say like 38-17 or something like that, but
32-19.
Yeah.
32-19. Okay, I was somewhat close in the same.
Weren't they ranked?
Oh, I think they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a ranking in the stats here, but
I think they were 17th, if I'm not mistaken, coming in.
Number I had too.
Yeah, and Philip Klopacki.
16.
There you go. Yeah, and that quarterback Philip Klopacki was a fantastic player, but you could tell he was flustered. He got some yards on his feet, but they were kind of garbage yards, and he threw a pick early in the game where he just kind of let one loose, and I can't remember, was it Virgil or something? Kind of an easy pick, and then USF scores, and you could just tell the mood in the building was kind of changing because everybody's on the same side because they had the all on one side seating thing going on. And I remember EA talking to you about that afterwards, about how well you guys thought you had prepared for them. Like they would come on out in a formation and you guys were able to call things out. And Klopacki was looking at you guys like, what's going on here? Like you guys like had inside info or something almost. And how did that all happen? Was it just from so much film study leading up to that point?
Yeah, that was huge. I think that's what we thrived on. I go back to 2010. That's just kind of how I learned with the older guys too. But 2011, that's probably my biggest regrets is I don't think we prepared like we normally do just because there was nothing to play for. And that's, discredit to us. But it was a lot harder to watch film when you couldn't play for anything. Now it's a brand new season. You get kind of a fresh start. And we thrived on that. And I think that's what made us a lot better than what we were, is that we were really smart football players and just kind of knew, like you said, by formation. I remember, I think actually one time he called timeout because we called the play, and he ended up calling timeout and going back to maybe because the play clock was going down too. But we called out one of their plays, and he looked around and was like, "What the heck?" and called timeout and went back to the sideline. But the preparation is huge. I think once you learn their formations, and a lot of teams that do a lot of shifting and all that, once you just kind of let that happen and reset to the formation that they're running and know what their identity is, I think you can really decipher what's going on and be able to call out the plays like that. So a lot of studying, yes.
Gotcha.
So Carrington Hanna had moved to receiver, and he ended up catching a couple touchdowns that game. Jeremiah Oates caught a touchdown. Porter had a touchdown run. We had a safety, and then Braden Weekend kicked a 48-yard field goal in the third quarter to kind of seal the deal. So pretty all-around contribution from a lot of different guys on the offense there.
I think what we were missing from the 2011 and 2012 was that stud GA that we got in 2012. I think that's what was missing.
That guy. You were all the singles on the sideline coming into play.
Wearing that bright yellow shirt.
If I could contribute, I would say it was just fun to see really like the team come back together. Because my senior year, I don't know, like the chemistry just wasn't what we're used to seeing in the past, and you could just see a whole switch change with like that senior group that you guys had in 2012, and you guys just had something to prove coming back. So you guys started off hot, and it was just fun to be a part of that. And we'll get more into it as we go into the season, but you could just tell the mindset was different.
Yep.
It seemed like the offense was a lot more explosive. Like Perkins was all of a sudden a lot more comfortable with what he was doing. And then when you had Hanna and Oates was such a difficult downfield threat, the way he could go up and battle for a football. And he had, he was fast, real fast. And then Hanna catching a lot of stuff in between. It seemed like the offense was a lot more potent than the year previous in terms of being able to have big plays.
I think Porter, was that when did we go no huddle right away to start that year off? Mm-hmm. But I think that was part of it. And then I think, putting CH in that slot position, that was the first time when we started doing that. Brady Rose was the next guy that followed that role, but that was just huge for our offense, going to 11 personnel and having a little more explosiveness, like you said, they're coming out of that spot.
Yeah, it's so tough for a defense when someone like that you can run power or you can go empty out of the same personnel group. It's tough.
Yeah. It's true.
Oates was a very, very, I don't think anyone disrespects him, but he's an underrated wide receiver at USF. I mean, he was good.
Yeah, some of the things he did in one-on-ones was like, what that? Like some of the catches that kid would make, like over people all the time. It was ridiculous in practice.
Well, it seemed like he changed the way teams had to defend you guys because of the way he could take the top off of the defense. I mean, like I remember later in the season when you guys played Augie and some other teams, they just sat back in the cover two because they didn't want anything over the top happening. Totally out of respect for him. So, but Chad, what other games do you have on tap after that? Let's skip the one where EA had the pick six. By the way, I
was just going to run through a few of these that I got. So we had the next week, 45-10 over Moorhead. Yeah. Then we had 42-20 over Minot. I think Juice had a pick six that week.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Juice.
So
yeah, loose.
The juice was loose. 21-5, weird score over Bemidji.
Oh yeah, that's weird.
The following week, 41-22.
That was the EA touchdown week, so let's just get it out of the way. EA, why don't you relive that just so you can get that out of your system?
No, I honestly, all the credit goes to Bonnie on that one. He made a hell of a play. He was. I knew I had to cover his flat because he was blitzing. So normally in our defense, if the linebacker is in coverage, he's got the flats on that particular call. But if he blitzes, I got to cover his flat. So I remember I knew I had to go over there, and I saw the running back, but I had to curl flats first. Well, there was another receiver coming into my area, so I played that one first. And then I saw the quarterback kind of turn and look, so then I started breaking on the play. If Bonnie doesn't tackle the quarterback and get after him and kind of hit his arm, I don't pick that off. I mean, that got kind of wobbly as he was tackling him, and I got there in time and picked it off right in front of the running back and took it back. And it was I took some speed to get there, but I got there.
I think it was uncontested, wasn't it?
Yeah, nobody knew what was going on. Nobody was chasing after me.
You had to beat the left tackle down the field. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But no, that was all Bonnie. I just was in the right spot at the right time after when he hit him. So no, that was a lot of fun.
So humble.
Yeah. And then Southwest Minnesota State the next week came to Sioux Falls and USF won 41-22. So, decent start, 5-0. A lot of the people that were picking before the season were like, geez, at that point, if we're, 3-2, we'll be lucky or whatever. And starting off 5-0 was a huge thing. So then October, the calendar hits October, and you guys had to travel over to Winona to play over there in that strange stadium. I don't know if you guys want to talk about kind of how it was set up and everything else. Or
I just remember from the coach's side, like we had issues with the headsets and everything. Coach Grubb was up in the box, and then he'd run down to the field, and then we thought it was working, so he's up in the box. So I mean, it was just kind of a crapshoot the whole game on our side. I mean, obviously, offense.
I think that's the first game Dusty called his first offensive play, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure it was 43 power.
Yeah,
keep it simple there.
Because the headset didn't work.
Yeah, it was. We didn't do great on offense, but we had some other issues going on too.
And then what did you guys say about like the special teams guys didn't get a chance to warm up?
Yeah, before we got on live here, we kind of talked about that a little bit, but that was just a weird game because usually when we get to a away stadium or even the home stadium, we kind of get to do our own thing. We kind of go out there, get on the field, play some catch, put on the pants, and then go out there, do some little whatever you want to do, before the game. I had my own ritual that I would do, and Coach Ijack would come with me, and we do some linebacker footwork drills, and then play a little catch with Bonnie and all that good stuff. We kind of had our own little thing. Well, when we got to the stadium, the locker room was so far away. Coach Stewart kind of announced out, he goes, hey, we're not going to have time to do you guys' normal thing before the game. You guys got to all get dressed, and the specialist, you need to get dressed right now and get out there and start doing your specialty stuff right away. And then we were shortly behind doing our team stuff. So, I mean, this kind of was just a huge I'm not trying to make excuses, but our routine was completely completely out of whack. And I didn't even know about the coach's headset. I mean, that just adds to it. I mean, we weren't meant to win that game. I mean, but I said this before, and I'll say it again. We play those guys 9 times out of 10. We will beat them 9 times. I think USF that year, we were the much better team than Winona. They got us that one game. I think we do beat them 9 times in a row. I really do. I'm being a realist here, because I think if we play Mankato, that's our other loss, and we'll get to that. But Mankato, they were the much better team. We play them 9 times out of 10. They probably, they probably beat us 9 times out of 10. We play Mankato because they're just a much better team. But I really do think we're better than Winona. And like I said, we talked a little bit about kicker. Miss that extra point. That does not happen. I don't know how many misses he had in his career, but I mean, that just doesn't happen. That was just a weird game, weird atmosphere. Wish we can have that one back for sure.
Well, let me step back a little bit because, so start the game by kicking off, and then you guys, the defense holds them to a 3-and-out, a minute 19 possession. They punt to USF. USF, drives right down the field, like 82-yard drive. 3 minutes, methodical drive, whatever, hit Van Ho for a touchdown. So, I mean, here we're 4 minutes into the game, and USF is up 6-0, and Braden Weeking, superstar kicker, comes in and misses the extra point. And I think that kind of shifted the momentum somehow or something. I don't know exactly what happened there, but that kind of changed how the game was played from that point forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it was tough just going forward after that. I mean, offensive side, I remember we were trying everything that we could, just outside zone, inside zone, different pass combinations, but just nothing was working on our end. It just was kind of a rough night all around.
Threw a couple interceptions at the end of the first half, which was pretty atypical of how everything, was going.
Michael and EA, do you guys remember the running back they had, that Raymond Simmons, the little guy, but he seemed to be kind of tough to corral.
Oh yeah, I was definitely on one of his highlight films. I remember vividly. And Eric, I think I cut Eric off from the tackle, but he literally made me miss completely, and I cut off Eric, and I think he bounced. I don't think he scored, but he took it down a ways. That guy was shifty. I will say that he was.
Yeah, I think, did he end up playing on the practice squad of the Raiders or something for a year?
Yeah, he did. He went somewhere. I remember he had transferred into Winona from Upper Iowa, and I mean, during the time I've covered the Northern Sun, he's one of the better running backs I've seen during that time.
He is. I wouldn't say he's the best one that we faced. We'll kind of get to that one here in a short little bit, but he was very, very good. Yeah, he was hard to keep in check. Just so dang shifty and so low to the ground. But I wish we had that one back 9. That one stings.
Yep.
He finished with 191 yards rushing that game. So
yeah,
obviously it was pretty decent. All right, we'll move on then. You guys don't sound like you want to talk too much about that 10-9 loss. So the next week, come back to Sioux Falls, play Concordia. Tight one, but end up pulling it out 31-23. And then, the biggest game, probably, I don't know, one of the biggest games in USF history, I think, the following week at Augustana. Where do we start? I don't know. That probably
emotions on that one.
Yeah, that game was insane.
I remember just at the start of the game, I remember we'd all, as we're walking out to the field, and then Coach Grubb makes his way up to the press box. We get our headsets on, and first thing Coach Grubb was just like, boys, he's like, watch number 5, watch Bonte. And we're like, why, what's up? He's like, I don't know, but I was just walking behind him, and he was mumbling, and then all I heard him say was murder ball. All right. Watch Bonte for the first play, and he was just lighting fools up. And I've asked Bonte about it numerous times. And he's just like, I don't know, man. I black out. I don't even know. It was just a great way to start it off. Yeah, I remember Coach Grubb saying that. I got goosebumps listening to that.
Yeah, it was easily the craziest game I've ever been a part of. I mean, just the ups and downs, the roller coaster. I mean, we had them. The first half, it felt like it was done. And then they got the ridiculous touchdown catch, which some people say still wasn't a catch. I was a part of that, by the way. And I didn't break it down, and I'll still in that one. But
well, wasn't it 14-0? Porter, didn't you score right away, if I'm not mistaken? And 14-0 right away, and everybody on the USF side is feeling like this might be a one-sided game, and then the momentum shifts big time, right? And what was it? Was it the big receiver Parsons or whatever? Wasn't he the one who, or Parsley, wasn't he the guy who caught a big ball or something for a score?
Yeah, it was double.
There was a safety, and then he caught that one.
Yeah, double coverage. Me and John Tidwell went up for it. He didn't catch it because I know there was like a picture of him, like the ball was on the ground. Wasn't that true? Wasn't there a picture of it, or film? I tell that to myself. Like he didn't actually catch it, but they gave it to him.
I believe you, Frericks.
Thank you.
That wasn't a touchdown. I remember they completely changed their offensive scheme on how they run inside and outside zone.
Yep.
Completely different. It was like their linemen would go opposite way. And this is, again, not being – but Coach A did a phenomenal job throughout our career of reading keys. And we were so good at reading our keys. We were going with the flow of the offensive line, and the running back all of a sudden darts out for 8-9 yards the other way. We're like, what the heck is going on? And then finally we take a timeout or something, and Coach A's telling us, like, hey, they changed their blocking scheme on inside zone. So read running back now. Yep. You're so used to reading guard. He's like, read the running back. So we started doing that, and I think we started getting them in check, but then they started hitting some pass plays after that. But that's a game I would also wish we had back. That's actually not my most memorable game. St. Cloud's probably my favorite Division II football game just because of the tone that we set right away, and I'm not going to say disrespect because that's our first year in Division II. I don't think anyone disrespected us. There's just so much respect how good St. Cloud State was the year before and the returning quarterback. But that was probably my favorite game to play in the Division II era was that one. But I wish we can play Augie again because I don't think our defense played up to par that game at all. So I wish we can have that one back. But if you're looking at a paper standpoint, that's exactly how a rival game's supposed to be played the first year, coming back and playing. That's how it's supposed to go. So, but that was a lot of fun.
So that Parsley catch that Whit mentioned earlier that you guys may have been a catch, right, Frericks? Who knows? That was with like 30 seconds left in the first half.
Yep.
And then we blocked the extra point. USF blocked the extra point. So obviously – I don't remember if that was the one where the kicker got hurt, because it was Ben Albrecht was the kid who kicked that one, and then he didn't kick anymore the rest of the game.
Yep.
But I think he ended up getting hurt on that blocked kick, and so then in the second half, Weeking came out and kicked a field goal to start off. So USF's up 17-8, and then they score 2 touchdowns in the third quarter there, towards the end of the second half of the third quarter. And so it's 17-18, kind of a strange 1-point score. So then going into the fourth quarter, Jordan Taylor runs one in, and then Jeremiah Oates gets a 2-point conversion. And then, so it's 25-18, and then they score, Isaac Jorgensen scored from Hansen, and they made the kick, so it's 25-25. Right at the end of regulation, there was 30 seconds left when that happened. So obviously we go to overtime, which, college overtime is a weird thing. I don't know. Do you guys remember what happened? I don't want to just sit here and read play-by-play, but it was kind of crazy.
I really don't.
I think we scored on a 143, Peters, if I'm not mistaken. It was a play-action power pass, CH.
I remember the
Is that the one we
scored the CH. I think that was a 2-point conversion, but yeah, maybe read off what happened, and we can talk about it. If you read it off.
Yes. So it says here that they, according to the play-by-play, it says Josh Hansen had a 4-yard run, and then the kick was blocked, and then
shout out Michael Tolkamp first. We got to say that. I mean, we
got a shout out for Tolkamp here. Right?
He had 3 of them that game, didn't he? Or 2?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Never, ever forget about him.
Never.
And then it says Carrington Hanna caught a 9-yard touchdown pass from Taylor Perkins, and Braden Weeking made the extra point. So
I don't know which one that was, but I mean, USF football is known for Jet Delaware. I mean, the tight end delay. And I think that week we mixed it up and we called it Utah, where, I mean, instead of the tight end delaying, we had the U back behind him delay and slip in behind that void. And I don't know if that was the touchdown or maybe that was a 2-point conversion coming up later, but just another play that I'll never forget.
Yeah. So phenomenal game, long game. It was over 3 hours. I remember it was kind of crazy. A lot of crowd there going back and forth. But yeah, pretty fun.
Yeah,
you guys have any other memories?
I just remember, I think it was either a 2-point conversion or something that we were going for, and or maybe it was even a touchdown where I think we could have been going in, and we threw basically a power pass out to JT for remember that, and he got drilled right when he was going to catch it, and they picked it off.
Yeah,
I remember just thinking, oh no, like that we might have just lost it, and I'll admit I was pretty negative. I wasn't thinking we had good because they just had to go kick a field goal. But again, shout out.
Yeah, I thought
we saved our butts in that, and he blocked the next one. And then next time we got the ball, we score, and kicker puts it through for us and wins the game. So
let me ask you guys, it had to be kind of surreal stepping on the field and seeing that many ex-players kind of surrounding that whole bowl area, to the south near the Elman Center. I mean, anytime USF is at Augustana, that always kind of fills up, as you guys have now been a part of yourselves. But for seeing that the first time, that had to really put a little bit of pressure on you, didn't? I mean, wasn't it like, wow, everyone really is here to see this?
I
think that was a good atmosphere.
I really did. We were running out. We run out to the warm. After we do our warm ups, and we go in the locker room. Then we all run out to the field right after that. Running down towards the end zone, and you just look up, and they're just screaming and hooting and hollering at you. I mean, that just brought the emotion, the tears down my face. I mean, that was awesome. That was a special moment seeing that, because that's who you play for. Because those guys won us those national championships, put us in the position where we are to be in Division II, to play Augustana, and all they went through their whole entire career was, you guys just play, a weak level, and here's your cereal box, national championship rings, all that crap, and they just kept hearing it, and they never got to prove it. They never got to play against them. That was just something really special to play for those guys and to get that win for them. And that's what was – it wasn't even about us during that game. It was all about those guys standing up there that got us in the position where we were. I mean, that was just a special moment and special victory for those guys.
Yeah, no, there was definitely pressure not to lose for those guys. I literally vividly remember like Low Miller up on the brick up there and just looking at him and screaming at us and just like, wow, yeah, it meant a lot. You could definitely feel it. It meant a lot, not to just us, but to everybody else that has been a part of the program, because all you ever heard was Augie, USF. You never get to play each other. You constantly talk crap about each other, but Augie always said they were better than us, and this was the first time we actually got to prove it, and it was awesome.
Sure.
Yeah, it was. We first touchdown of the game was in that end zone too. Grand Power, Cuddy.
Yep.
Big with the nice kick on the block.
I remember like Newman and Drew Anderson and all these guys. I remember like as soon as kicker hit that field goal, I ran to that corner, and it was on then.
Yeah.
So obviously we could probably sit and talk about that one all night. Well, let's finish up the season here, because you guys had a lot of good other stuff happen this season. The next week, Upper Iowa came to the Bob, and that was a strange record. Do you guys remember that one?
Yes.
Yeah, they set some records offensively, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, so USF got off to a huge lead, a 37-0 lead. And all of a sudden, Upper Iowa started just throwing the ball everywhere and made a huge comeback. And they got it at one point to, 47-41 near the end of the game. And then they tried to onside kick, and Bonte, instead of just falling on it, he just caught it and took it to the house. To Yeah, to end up, but that was actually, they were within a touchdown at the end there, which was kind of crazy.
Didn't that Cole Jackson have like 75 pass attempts or something?
Yeah,
something in.
They ran 106 plays that game. But EA and Michael, you guys, was that a bit of an emotional dump from the previous week, and then all of a sudden they start playing fast and they're chucking everywhere, and you guys kind of, because that's also a trap game before Mankato.
Yeah, no, I do remember. It was weird. What I remember them about is when they started getting back at us, like starting to come back, was me and Virgil as safeties. We were so aggressive at coming downhill on stuff like slants or digs. Well, what they would start doing was they would run a dig, and then we would break. And as soon as we would break, they would just go straight vertical up the field. And the quarterback just kept timing it perfectly. And I remember we're getting screamed at. They're like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "We're coming downhill. We're doing exactly what you taught us." And these guys were just sticking their foot in the ground and would go vertical instantly, and it just was messing with us. And I remember, it was a long night. I remember that, or long day.
Yeah, if EA would have just got some pressure, it would have been all right.
Yeah,
well, that's what I was about ready to talk about, because actually, Frericks, I don't know if you remember this. That was the week we put in our new defense.
Oh boy,
package where you take a linebacker out of the game.
Yeah,
you put a new DB in, and we were pissed.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to say whose idea it was, but he's not with USF anymore, so maybe I could say it. But Peters is laughing, but I couldn't. I don't know. That pissed us off to no end, and that was a tough. That was kind of after the game where I had a really bad attitude, and with some of the coaching staff, and just said, "See, if he would have just play our defense the way we were playing it all year long, we're doing just fine. Now we're going to completely change up towards the end of the season, mind you. If we're going to make changes, you make changes right away in fall camp and just kind of see how things work in the first couple of games. But we completely changed something that's not broken at all, because it's not like the Winona loss. We got crushed by deep passes or anything like that. We never got crushed at all in the deep passing game. So why change anything? So we come in a new formation and defensive package, and that just ticked me off. And then they score all those points. Then we went back to the regular stuff the next week. But anyways, that was tough. That was a game that I knew we were going to win, but maybe that's where the coaches thought that too, where they're thinking, hey, this might be an easy win here. This is where we should probably implement some things that are different to get ready for Mankato or something like that. I don't know, but that was a struggle after that game.
Yeah. Their quarterback was 43 for 78 for 606 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know what the tuck we were doing that game, but
did I catch that? Anyway.
I got it.
So the next week, go over to Mankato and play a tough Minnesota State Mankato team over in their place. Respectable game. I don't know. What do you guys remember about that one?
I don't think we got going on offense at all that game. If I remember correctly.
Right.
Yeah, schematically, talent-wise, they were good. They were just overall, they were a really good football team. They got us confused on defense. They obviously had what was his name?
Adam Thielen.
We did a pretty good job of containing him. I remember that was all we talked about all week. But
except for the last touchdown that they scored, but that was just kind of a deal where, people forget that game. We actually were only down 1 score in the fourth quarter. I think a couple minutes to go, and we actually held them, and it was 4th down and 1, and they went for it around the 50-yard line. Did a play action pass, and it was to Thielen, who reached over John Tidwell, which was no slouch, as you guys know. He was just a freshman that year, but a heck of a corner, a heck of a ball player. But Thielen just kind of reaches over him and runs it back for a touchdown, game over. But, so the score, I believe, was like something 27-13, but it was closer than that. It was a good game. I think we did held Thielen in check till that last play, but that was still they have a kind of a cool atmosphere there. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Crappy loss.
They had the quarterback, John Wolf, that tall guy that run. and you had Thielen, and I mean, I thought you guys did really well defending against a team who was pretty potent like that, because he was always a threat to run. I mean, he was kind of like Papillion before Papillion.
Yeah,
I mean, with the way he could run it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, he was jumping over guys a year later with Solomon and all that. But I mean, when you looked at how you guys played them, I would agree. You know, Porter, you guys. I remember Oates he was fielding a punt and got his bell rung, got concussed like a play before half or something, never returned. And I really thought that really kind of sunk the chances in the second half, because he was the guy who you could take a chance with to make a play down the field. And I didn't think that against a high-level team like that, I thought you guys needed to have all the weapons, and I thought that put you in a tough spot.
Yeah.
No, I agree. They were really sound on defense. I remember their defensive line. They had, I can't think of what his name was. He got on a team somewhere, and we had our pass protection was all right. Running back, the D end. So I'm going to cut, bounce right off his legs. I'm pretty sure his legs were the size of my waist.
Yeah,
they were good. They were good on defense.
I remember.
They had a DN who like got a pick or something.
Yeah, they would always do this DN drop, and I mean, like you said, we didn't have Oates in that second half, so our outside threat was gone, and I think we were forcing everything in the middle, probably to Van Hove and stuff, and they just dropped the DN right into the middle of the coverage, and I think he ran it back probably inside the 10 and made things go for your defensive guys there too. So.
Yeah, was it that Gordon guy? Porter, is that who you're thinking of?
That may have been. Yeah, that may have been, I was gonna say, because they had Chris Stout for a while, who was a really good DN. Okay, and then Gordon. Yeah, Gordon was young then.
Yeah,
but Stout was a big kid, and he did get on with somebody. Yeah,
he was a big boy. I think we ran Peters. What was that play called? Where it was a spot? We ran a lot of spot that game, if I'm not mistaken.
Spot
running back dart. Yeah, spot and stick.
Yep.
Yeah, dart with a slant and a curl.
Mm-hmm. What were the thoughts that you guys had on the way back home, having 2 losses at that point? What was your thoughts that you're out of playoff contention, or is the season over? We got 1 game left. We got Wayne. Kind of what were your thoughts at that point, having 2 losses?
We were kind of new to the whole system. I felt like we were getting in. I thought the talk around the team was like there was a solid shot that we were going to potentially play some more, right?
Yeah, we weren't used to. I think Stuger did do a good job of that. His coach speak was very, very good after that game, just because you don't want to end the season on a loss, and here you got a chance to play in the playoffs. I mean, he kept us in check, I think, but I believe before that Wayne State game, like hours before, I think we kind of during the team huddle talk going out to the field, I think we kind of all had that feel. I actually cried during that too, because I just realized it was my last game, because I think we kind of figured out there's no way we're getting in. We kind of looked at things, and just the way how the D2 structure was that year. Well, I don't like how the D2 system is anyways, but we were in a really tough region, probably the toughest region in Division II. And we just kind of started connecting the dots and see that. I believe, obviously Mankato was in. I believe Duluth made it that year. I can't remember. So you go by the region, I'm like, well, there's just no way we're getting in. So I remember hours before kickoff, we're doing a team huddle, and Coach A speaking and Coach Stugert speaks, and the tears started rolling, because I just realized, like, hey, this is my last game in a USF uniform. So that was pretty tough. Go 9-2 in Division II in your first year, not make the playoffs. And that was tough. That was tough to swallow.
Yeah.
And I don't think we would have made it even if we would have beat Winona either. If we go 10-1, and I don't think we still make it, because our region was so tough.
Yeah.
Because Winona made Mineral Water Bowl, didn't they?
Yeah.
They didn't even.
Because they had the tiebreaker over us for that. But
yeah.
So that was tough.
Yeah. Thinking about that year when Oates, because I don't think Oates played against Wayne State.
No.
But we had some good receivers that year. I mean, if you guys remember Kendrick Celestine.
Oh, yeah.
We had Kendrick, we had Jeremiah Oates, we had CH,
My kicks.
Darren Neely, Hove. Give him credit. I consider him a receiver. He had some good hands.
Well, Darren Neely caught a 41-yard touchdown pass in that finale.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, he played for Oates, I think, because Oates didn't play
Oates is
last
out there.
game.
Yep.
Tony Benedetto was in there somewhere.
Was he
No,
there?
not in 12.
He was my
Oh,
grade.
he was
I was
gone.
gonna say, he wasn't there.
We're long
Yeah.
gone.
We talked about this a little bit, but I guess I gotta apologize to Mr. Berger. He did have us in the top 10 all-time USF teams. You did have 2012 in there. You said you
Oh, yeah.
did, right?
I have my standings over here somewhere.
Well, I thought maybe you didn't. I didn't think anyone did and I'm not being biased, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I really do think the 2012 team will probably go down as one of the most underrated teams in USF history. And I say that because of recruiting. Because let's just say we go 5-6, 6-5. You know how easy that is to recruit against us. They're like, hey, yeah, they won all these national championships before, but look what they do when they come play big boy football. I mean, they can't even barely get a winning season. But when you go 9-2, just think how easy that is to sell recruiting. Hey, we're a proven dynasty program. Look, we win these national championships. We move up to Division II, and look what we did in our very first year. I mean, we're 15 points away from an undefeated season. I mean, you can really sell that, and I think it doesn't. And I'm not saying we're getting disrespected or anything like that. I just don't think it gets the credit it deserves that year. I mean, I think there was that's a big turning point from USF. I mean, and I'm not taking credit. I mean, definitely not the best Division II team era. I mean, I think 16's got that for sure, and probably 15's even better. But just a little bit, I think, underrated from the standpoint of definitely recruiting for sure.
Before we let you guys go, let me ask you, for each one of you individually, what is your most memorable or favorite game as a player? Meaning, I mean, it doesn't need to be the most glorious one USF has ever played in or anything, but what game do you remember the most fondly during your own playing career?
I can start. Mine would have been that 2009 UND game. It's probably the one where I remember the most plays, and maybe it's because I watch it over and over again, and just the impact that it had on the program. But I mean, I'm not much of a talker or rah-rah guy like the guy in the middle up there, EA, is. But I can remember that game. I was the most fired up I've ever been. Coming off the sideline, having that UND band blaring right behind us, and they're all talking smack, and before you know it, most of their people have left for the hockey game because we're putting a whooping on them. So it was just all around awesome. I remember everything about it. I remember the ride up there. I remember the ride back. I remember the night after. I remember the newspapers the next day. It was just all around awesome.
Did you ever hear, Casey, about when they read that score out loud at Augustana during their game?
No, but I'd love to hear it.
No, I've got a few buddies of mine who I used to play slow pitch with who played for Augie, and they said that there was a lot of everybody couldn't wait to hear the score to kind of hear how USF was getting it handed to them, and then the first score that was read was like, what was it? It was 21-3 is what they read off, because that was right after Alex had scored that on that go route.
Yep.
And he said you could have heard a pin drop in there. He said it was just unbelievable. Like nobody could believe it.
Yeah,
So,
you're just lucky it wasn't fair. I mean, I feel like we left points on the board there too.
no, absolutely, I would agree. Kristian, how about yourself?
I think mine has to be with Eric at St. Cloud State. Obviously, because I didn't play half a year before that and got my medical red shirt, and kind of a proving game for us and a proving game for me coming back from an injury.
Sure, makes sense. Michael, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'd say St. Cloud, just being that first Division II game, it was just how fun that was. And UND, I was a true freshman. I only played on special teams at UND, but I just remember how fun it was to be a part of that whole environment, how locked in everybody was, and just, I mean, that was one of the more fun football moments of my life. And I really wasn't even a starter. I was just a special teams kid, and I remember every second of that game as well. So UND and St. Cloud State for me.
Okay, we'll save the best for last. EH, you're up. What do you got?
Well, St. Cloud, obviously, I kind of already mentioned that. Mid-American Nazarene and obviously UND. Those three really stand out. But the one that kind of actually stands out from, I didn't even play in that game, was 2008. I was a red shirt. When we beat Carroll in the national championship. A group of us went down and drove to that game, actually. And I don't know how long it was, but it was a long ways, Rome, Georgia. But we, as Hove, myself, Bo Bearshill, Brett Jensen, and I don't remember who else, but we drove down to that game. And I'll never forget, like Sean Flanagan, TJ Wynn, all these seniors, after we win that game, and we got on the field, of course, but they came up to us like immediately after they shook hands and all that stuff and came up to us and were so happy that we were there and made us feel a part of, that we helped them become, national champions. They made it known that, hey, your guys' work and practice as red shirts gave us a great look for this game all season long. The comments that we got from them was amazing. And that just kind of wowed yourself as a red shirt. I mean, because you think you don't matter as a red shirt. You don't think you're worth anything because players don't think about you. But when to see them after winning a national championship, instead of celebrating right away, they come over straight to us and gave us high fives and hugs, and that was really special right there.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing a lot of these memories and stories and everything from your time at the coup. This is pretty awesome. I enjoyed, talking with you guys and hearing all this cool stuff. Whit, do you have any final remarks here?
I don't really, other than, the great thing about all this is that nobody can ever take any of these memories away from you guys and all the accomplishments that you had. And me being a guy who was kind of follow along with the program, it was fun to be along for the ride. Literally driving, flying every other way. You got to some of those games and a lot of good memories.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. It was
Fun
awesome.
fact.
What's that?
Fun fact. First time we played UND, first time I've ever seen somebody cut two people in one play. Scott LeBrun. Cut two people in one play. He was just a cutting machine.
If they could name an MVP of that game, he was the MVP, wasn't he? Like
hands down.
Cody Cavender wasn't bad either, but yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Stick around for a little bit. We're going to end our live here, so it'll be on YouTube if you guys want to share it with your friends and everything. But thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.